Hey, what's good, people? I am doing a public um, practice or dry run right now. I'm messing around with some live streaming, with the live stream that I'm working on for both the Pay Me No Mind podcast as well as the Bite Down Boxing podcast. And I'm very close to having it to where I want to eventually be, but I still have some hurdles to cross or overcome. But I'm working with it. So this is mainly going to be up for me to just see what's going on. Like the program that I'm shooting, that I'm recording on, is not the YouTube screen. So I don't. If anybody's in the chat section, I would not know because I don't have that open right now. So what I'm going to do is talk about season 2, the season 2 finale of Snowfall. Just checking out, trying to see where people are with it, where fans of the show of Snowfall. What did you think about it? I'm a very opinionated person. If you check out any of the other entertainment videos on here, I've been pretty critical of Power. I guess I don't think I've been critical. I think I've just been kind of quizzical, just wondering what the hell they're doing at some points with the storytelling and the direction of the show. But you see, I'm all jacked up. Excuse me. So anyway, let's get into it. I thought season 2 was a little interesting. I guess I just have a couple questions. Like I said, I don't have much negative to say about Snowfall. Again, I think I have a couple of questions. And those questions are, or the main one is, do you think the 10 episode format is it working for Snowfall? It seems like it's a really big story, and it just seems like, and it's a really big story. It has 3 major areas going on with Teddy, with Lucia and Gustavo, and then what's going on with Franklin. In the last few episodes, they spent a lot of time exclusively or primarily on Franklin, and mainly because Lucia and Gustavo were on the run briefly. So they just got a lot to cover, and in the background it seems like it's a lot of stuff going on as Franklin's organization is growing. And when you look at the type of money that he's throwing around and the amount of product that he was buying from Teddy, it would seem like it's quite a bit going on, but we're really not seeing any of that. And that's kind of been one of my problems with Power is, we're not focusing on the street organization whatsoever. And, everything was mainly revolving around the bedroom of Ghost, and then Tasha, briefly. And then I guess Tommy as well. But anyway, trying to stay on task with Snowfall. The season was pretty good. Like I said, no major complaints. I like most everything of what I saw. Damson Idris, who's playing Franklin, he continues to be a standout actor, a standout performer. A guy that keeps you tuning in week to week. Reed or Teddy, his world is kind of falling apart a little bit. Actually, everybody's world is kind of messed up. That's kind of how season 2 closes out, and we actually lost one of the kind of the principal characters of the show in Kevin Hamilton, or who was played by Malcolm Mays. Franklin had to take him out, kind of unfortunately, and his hand was kind of forced into doing so when Kevin went to possibly set off a war by taking out a high-level guy in the Mexican organization, which we really didn't see too much of them this whole season, except for just a couple flashes here and there. So let's get on to this finale. Franklin was actually picked up and ended up in jail. And I was talking to a buddy earlier, and it just seemed like this show, this episode, or this experience, and what we, Franklin kind of coming of age, who he's a guy who's kind of avoided doing a lot of the heavy lifting, getting his hands dirty, so to speak. That's been the case with his character. He's kind of the brains of the operation. What's that? Peaches is D-Ray's name. He's been the muscle. Jerome's done some muscle stuff. Some type of the goon responsibilities. But for them, and then Leon has done a little bit too. But Franklin ends up spending, he went to jail in episode 9. And then in the finale, which was called Education, which is an apt name because, like I said, Franklin learns a couple of things. One, he learns that he just can't, now that he's actually killed somebody, and with that being his friend, that should be a signal to the streets, how real he is about his business. And how he's going to run it and keep everybody in check that's on his team. So that probably will create a lot of or result in a lot of street credibility for the guy moving forward. More people should know that he's not playing around, and that I would imagine, you catch one body, that it may become easier, especially if it's a situation where it's justifiable. So I guess that could help in running his organization. The one thing that was kind of a little awkward, if we're looking at detail, is that he could be free. I guess I thought going into the finale that maybe he was going to be able to get out of that by saying he was protecting the public, by taking out Kevin, because what Kevin was getting ready to do, putting a lot of individuals, a lot of civilians at risk. I thought maybe he was going to be able to get out of it by saying, it was either him shooting into this crowd of people, or it was me trying to injure him, but it ended up being a fatal shot with him bleeding out, and maybe they could have done something. But it actually ended up being resolved that the DEA agent, the female who identified him, she went back and recanted her statement to the police or to the detective, and a scene later, Franklin was back out on the street. So I didn't see it really playing out that way, but that's how they did it. I think the major question we all have in the background is, how close is this show related to Freeway Ricky Ross? And I kind of don't have an answer for that at this moment, but it's definitely, tying in the whole COINTELPRO, or the government, which we've known for a couple of years now that the government was selling drugs to fund a war. I don't want to get it all bogged down in that type of stuff. But anyway, I think getting ready to close this out, I do think that the prison experience, or the experience behind bars, might have been better served over at least an episode and a half. But with this being 10 episodes, he kind of had to go through all of this in maybe 15-20 minutes of screen time, where he comes in and he's made to feel very vulnerable as he's outnumbered, and he can't really do much with his diplomatic skills, so he ends up losing his shoes or his sneakers, and then he faces some more adversity as his bail was denied, and he's sent into the second facility, which basically was a larger holding facility, or kind of like, I've never been locked up, so I don't even want to front, but I think there's a processing area, or a processing facility, before you get sent off to the major, the whatever level of security you're going to. There's a processing center, and I believe that's where he was at. And he re-encounters, or runs back into Ray Ray. Ray Ray played it real slick, looking like it was going to be some kind of alliance, being that he was already kind of settled in and he ends up turning on Franklin, and him and some of his buddies beat Franklin down. Franklin again is still, he still hasn't fought back at all. He's just still been using his mind and whatnot, his intelligence over to accomplish everything. But after he gets beat up, he's visited by his mom and dad. That goes wrong, and he lashes out at them for coming in, which I think it wasn't intentional. I think he was embarrassed to have to go see his people like that, and then they didn't have the best response or reception to looking at him, seeing the optics of him being beaten down like that, him disappointing his mom and whatnot. I think he was just dealing with a lot, and that served as the impetus that when he got back into that big area where the beds were, where they were all being held, he went in and immediately he sees the Mexican guy that took his sneakers off of him earlier in the show, and he listens to Leon's advice and goes in and attacks the Mexican guy and gets his sneakers back. And you could see him on the ground, even though once the other guys came over to jump him, he was holding on to the sneakers like, I at least need this right here. This is the most important thing in my life right now for me to feel whole, is to know that I took something back that somebody stole or took from me by force. So then he comes back. I think he spends some time in the infirmary or in isolation or whatever for creating a disturbance. And then when he comes back into the holding area, and he's walking with his chest out, shoulders back up, not slouched over and whatnot, and he's looking more confident, more sure of himself. And before he goes over to his rack, he lays down. I mean, he goes back over to Ray and his crew and lets them know, hey, I'm back on my, I'm back. I'm still sharp as a tack, and give me my space, or it's gonna be repercussions if I'm messed with again. And we see the Franklin that we've come to know over the last season and a half. So then he gets out based on the Reed going and having the female DEA agent, what's her name? But having her as she's joining forces with him for the investigation. Her name is not on here. But whatever, that's really insignificant. But she goes and, like I said, recants the story that she didn't see him. She's going to go along with Reed on playing his drug dealing till she can get what she wants to get out of it. So he's released. He hooks back up immediately with Reed, who Reed's kind of been putting his thing back together because he lost his backing, the guy that he reported to. And, his whole operation was kind of halted. So I guess that's kind of why he needed Franklin back, because he trusts him, or at least trusts him to do he has some very prudent decision-making skills and whatnot for a street guy. So that sets all of that up. But then as the show closes out, Franklin lets it be known that he went to his buddy, time and again, off and on, buddy, and Javi, to which was his original connect for the drugs. He revisits him to get a better understanding exactly of what he's dealing with in Reed, who seems to have some pretty strong connections based on how with Franklin being a smart guy, he's picked up on the fact that, hey, this guy can get me out of here, a murder rap, murder one, and he can get me out in a couple days or whatnot, or set things in motion for that to happen. So he has to be more than just a dope dealer. So he has Franklin in the closing scene has a bunch of information laid out on his desk, and he's kind of picking up on what Teddy is and getting a better understanding of how he might move moving forward as we get into season 3. So that kind of closes it out. Like I said, I thought it was a very solid season. I think it was a little better than the first in some regards. Right now it's at 81% on Rotten Tomatoes, which, you know, I just like to check it out just as kind of a barometer. And then on IMDb, I thought they had it at 7.8 out of 10. So the show's doing very well. Like I said, I think my only knock on it is the pacing is a little weird. The Snowfall world is kind of big and complicated, and it'll just be interesting to see where it goes. And far as, you know, at some point it would have been nice to see some kind of map or some kind of graphic to see exactly how big Franklin's territory is. Like I said, we don't know who's working for him, but he went and took 80 bands to Javi is what he said. So they're making a lot of money. He paid his mom's house off. He bought the 2 houses for Leon and Kevin. Unc said he had 220 bands in the bag that he showed to Louis. So everybody's making something and things are growing, and we really haven't seen too much of anything. So like I said, it seems like it's a lot to pack into an hour, and then to pack into 10 episodes. But look, I've ran my mouth enough. Like I said, this is just a public rehearsal. I'm gonna give my buddy some this feed or this video so he can check out. Gonna help me dress it up a little bit. Feel free, you know, the Twitter is down there. Holler at me on Twitter. Holler at me in the comment section if you're a big fan of Snowfall and what you think is going on with the series, and what your expectations are for season 3. Again, this is R.L. Woodson. See that down there at the bottom. Just call me Wood. And until next time, peace.